The alarm wailed across monitoring station Epsilon 7, its piercing tone echoing through the crystalline corridors. Commander Varix's dorsal spines stiffened as the emergency lights bathed the command center in pulsing crimson. The Ardeshian officer's compound eyes narrowed, focusing on the spatial anomaly displayed on the central hologram. "Report," Varix demanded, six-fingered hands clasping behind his back. Lieutenant Krell, a young Volari with feathered sensory organs that now quivered in distress, gestured to the boundary markers. "Unscheduled transition, Commander. A vessel has emerged from faster-than-light travel directly inside the Forbidden Zone perimeter." "Impossible," Varix hissed. The gravitational distortions and quantum instabilities would tear any conventional ship apart. "Identity. Configuration matches." Krell hesitated, mandibles clicking nervously. "Terran design, sir. Appears to be one of their Explorer-class vessels." A heavy silence fell over the command center. The humans, barely a century into spaceflight, less than 2 decades in the Galactic Coalition, impulsive, unpredictable, and now trespassing in the one region of space forbidden to all sentient life by the Ancestral Accords. "Hail them," Varix ordered, voice hardening. "All frequencies, all protocols." The communications array activated, broadcasting in standardized formats established by the Treaty of Alpha Centauri. The results scrolled across Varix's neural interface. "No response, Channel 1. No response, Channel 2. Unknown signal pattern, Channel 3. "They're broadcasting something," reported Chief Thawne, the station's communications specialist. "But it's not on any recognized Coalition frequency." "Let me hear it." The command center speakers crackled with static before resolving into a human voice, strained, distorted, but unmistakable in its desperate intensity. "Repeat, this is Captain Elena Reyes of the ESV Pathfinder. We've sustained catastrophic damage, multiple casualties. They came from the Dark Cluster, weapons unlike anything we've encountered. Survivors evacuating to emergency shelters. If anyone receives this, they're following us. The stars. They're going dark behind us. We had no choice. We had no choice but to cross the boundary. Please, anyone." The message looped, each repetition identical to the last. A recording then, perhaps the last testament of a doomed crew. "Scan the vessel," Varix commanded. The tactical display updated with new information. Radiation leaking from damaged engines, hull breaches across multiple decks, life support systems functioning at minimal capacity. And behind the ship, at the very edge of scanner range, something massive distorted the fabric of space itself. "Magnify Sector 7 Gamma," Varix ordered, pointing to the anomaly. The display zoomed in on what appeared to be emptiness, but not quite emptiness. Something moved there, something that seemed to bend light around itself. As they watched, a star at the periphery of the display flickered and vanished. Varix's decision was immediate. Dispatch intercept vessels. Priority Alpha. Full tactical package. "Commander," his second protested, "Coalition protocols for restricted zone breaches require High Council authorization before." "Look at the scanners," Varix interrupted, pointing to where another star disappeared from the display. "Whatever is chasing that human ship isn't stopping at the boundary." He activated the station's emergency protocols. Klaxons wailed as reinforced bulkheads locked into place. "Get me Coalition command," Varix ordered. "And find me every file we have on human physiology and psychology. If that vessel survives long enough for intercept, I need to know why they fled into the Forbidden Zone rather than toward Coalition space." As the command center erupted into activity, Varix studied the slowly tumbling human vessel. His species had evolved from ambush predators. He recognized the movements of wounded prey. But something about this didn't add up. The damage patterns were inconsistent with conventional weapon impacts. "What did you find out there?" he murmured to the distant humans. "And what found you?" Lieutenant Maya Harper stood before the Coalition intelligence briefing chamber, maintaining parade rest despite the throbbing pain in her left side, where emergency medical nanites were still repairing 3 cracked ribs. 6 hours had passed since the ESV Pathfinder breached the boundary of the Forbidden Zone. 6 hours of increasingly heated debate among the Coalition leadership. You want to send a human. Admiral Zentrix's crystalline skin refracted light as he gestured dismissively toward Harper. To investigate humans. Director Moven, her insectoid features unreadable, countered. Lieutenant Harper has the highest psionic sensitivity rating in the sector, and she was instrumental in the Proxima Centauri first contact negotiations. A convenient accomplishment. The Admiral's facets darkened. "I'm in the room, sir," Harper said quietly. "If there are specific concerns about my loyalty, I'd prefer to address them directly." The chamber fell silent. Coalition officials weren't accustomed to subordinates, especially human subordinates, speaking without explicit permission. Admiral Zentrix leaned forward. "Very well, Lieutenant. Explain why we should trust your species after one of your vessels has violated our most sacred prohibition." Harper met his crystalline gaze. "Because no human with legitimate Coalition clearance would enter the Forbidden Zone without catastrophic cause. The Pathfinder was on an authorized archaeological expedition to the Ta Siti ruins. Something happened there, something bad enough that Captain Rice chose certain death in the zone over returning to Coalition space. And you believe you can determine what this cause might be. I know how humans think. More importantly, I know Captain Rice. We served together on Mars Station before she took command of the Pathfinder." This new information rippled through the chamber. Director Moven's antennae twitched with interest. "You have personal knowledge of the transgressor." "Elena Rice isn't a transgressor, Director," Harper said firmly. "She's one of the most disciplined officers I've ever served with. If she entered the Forbidden Zone, she was out of options." The Admiral hissed through crystalline teeth. "Grant the human her mission, then, but with a safeguard." He produced a small device from his robe. Neural monitor, calibrated to detect deception or collusion. One false move. The crystal being made a sharp gesture across his throat. "The deployment of lethal monitors requires council approval," Director Moven protested. "Which I obtained while you were debating," Zentrix cut in. "These are extraordinary circumstances." Harper touched the back of her neck involuntarily. "I accept the condition." 20 minutes later, the neural monitor sat like an ice chip against her brain stem as she boarded the pursuit vessel Vigilant Justice with Commander Verix. A mixed-species team awaited. A Volari navigator, twin Netheri engineers, and a silent Dresh security officer whose species communicated entirely via pheromones. "Pursuit pattern Epsilon," she ordered, settling into the tactical station as Verix took command. "Maximum sustainable speed." As the ship accelerated toward the boundary, the Volari navigator turned his eye stalks toward them. "The zone emissions will penetrate our shields within 17 minutes of boundary crossing. All species present will experience radiation sickness to varying degrees." "Noted," Verix replied, studying the projected course of the Pathfinder. Something about its trajectory seemed deliberate. Not random flight, but purposeful movement toward specific coordinates. The Forbidden Zone loomed ahead, a region indistinguishable to visual sensors, but marked on their tactical displays with pulsing warning symbols. As they crossed the boundary, the ship's systems flickered momentarily. "Commencing radiation exposure logging," the navigator announced. "Beginning countermeasures." The other crew members immediately reached for the medkits built into their stations, administering protective compounds. Harper did the same, but with less urgency. The Dresh security officer noticed, and a burst of confused pheromones filled the bridge. "Is the human not affected?" The navigator translated. Harper felt a slight warmth spreading through her limbs. Uncomfortable, but not debilitating. "I'm affected," she clarified. "Just not as severely." The neural monitor at her neck grew suddenly cold, scanning her physiological responses for deception. Finding none, it subsided. The Netheri engineers exchanged glances, and one spoke through their translator. Coalition medical databases indicate humans should experience acute radiation syndrome within minutes of exposure to zone emissions. Harper frowned. That's not what's happening. The monitor pulsed again, more intensely, as if detecting something beyond simple truth or deception. On the main display, the radiation intensity readings climbed steadily, and through the growing discomfort, a realization formed in Harper's mind. The Coalition's scientific understanding of human physiology might be incomplete or deliberately inaccurate. Verix observed her carefully, his compound eyes revealing nothing. "Interesting," was all he said, before turning his attention back to the pursuit. The vigilant Justice dropped out of FTL with a violent shudder. Before them hung the ESV Pathfinder, a wounded silhouette against the backdrop of an unfamiliar star system. The research vessel drifted in a slow tumble, emergency lights flickering across its hull like dying fireflies. "Life signs?" Verix asked. The Volari navigator manipulated his console, intermittent. Concentrated in the central section. Environmental systems failing. "Prepare boarding party," Harper said, rising from her station. "Full containment protocols." The Dresch security officer emitted pheromones of warning, translating roughly to deep concern. "I'm aware of the risks," Harper responded, checking the seal on her environmental suit. The neural monitor at her neck hummed against her skin, its temperature fluctuating as it analyzed her intent. "But these are my people." As the boarding shuttle approached the Pathfinder, Harper couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not just by the neural monitor or the Coalition team, but by something else entirely. Something ancient and patient, observing from the depths of the Forbidden Zone. The airlock cycled open to reveal a nightmare landscape of twisted metal and frozen blood. Emergency lighting bathed everything in a sickly red glow as Harper led the boarding party through the Pathfinder's wounded corridors. Structural damage inconsistent with weapon impacts, one of the Metheri engineers noted, scanning a section of bulkhead. Material appears extracted at the molecular level. Harper's flashlight illuminated a trail of bloody handprints leading down a corridor. "This way." They followed the grim path through the ship's laboratories, past workstations displaying incomprehensible data streams and sample containers shattered from within. In the xenobiology lab, they found the first body, or what remained of it. A human scientist, her torso splayed open with surgical precision, organs removed with methodical care. Admiral Zentrix wasn't wrong to fear what they found, the navigator whispered. A metallic clang echoed from deeper in the ship. The team froze, weapons raised. "We're Coalition intelligence," Harper called out. "We've come to help." Silence, then a bitter laugh from the shadows. "Bit late for that." A barricade blocked the engine room entrance. Furniture, equipment, and structural panels fused together with emergency sealant. Behind it, dark figures moved cautiously. "Captain Reyes." Harper stepped forward. "It's Maya Harper from Mars Station." A face appeared in a gap in the barricade, gaunt, burned along one side, but recognizable. Elena Rice's eyes widened briefly in recognition before narrowing with suspicion. "Convenient timing, Maya," she said, voice hoarse. "Did they send you because we were friends, or because they think I'll trust you?" "They sent me because I understand human decision-making." Harper holstered her weapon. "I need to know what happened." Rice studied her for a long moment. "Show them," she finally said to someone behind her. The barricade shifted, revealing a makeshift holographic projector. Footage flickered to life. Security recordings from a research outpost. Scientists examining an artifact recovered from the Ta Siti ruins. Then distortion in the air, crystalline forms materializing through what looked like tears in reality itself. Methodical slaughter followed. Researchers captured, some dissected alive. Others collected like specimens. "They weren't killing," Rice said hollowly. "They were sampling." The footage continued, showing Rice and a handful of survivors fleeing to the Pathfinder. As they prepared for emergency departure, the recording captured a crystalline entity pausing before a communications terminal. Its faceted head tilted, seemingly listening to something. Then it spoke in perfect coalition standard. The anomalous ones have accessed the beacon. Containment protocols have failed. Begin harvest. The neural monitor at Harper's neck suddenly burned like dry ice, sending shooting pain down her spine. Commander Varix's compound eyes widened slightly, the only indication of his surprise. "There's something else," Rais said, gesturing to a sealed stasis chamber. Inside floated what appeared to be a human brain connected to a quantum interface. Glowing filaments linked it to a nearby console, pulsing with data transfers. "The only way Dr. Julia Evers survived," Rais explained. "She uploaded her consciousness before they took her body." The brain pulsed with electrical activity. A synthesized voice emanated from nearby speakers. "They called us anomalous ones. They've been watching Earth for millennia. And they're not the guardians the Coalition told us they were. They're afraid of what we might become." "Tell me about the artifact from Ta Ceti," Harper demanded, as the surviving crew, just 7 humans from the original complement of 35, gathered around them. Rais gestured to a reinforced case clutched by a young researcher, a navigation device. "Ancient. We thought it was precursor technology." "You thought?" "It's older." Rais's eyes reflected the emergency lights, pupils dilated from stims and trauma. "We carbon-dated the organic components to over 5 billion years." The Volari navigator's eye stalks went rigid, the equivalent of shock. "That predates all known spacefaring civilizations." "The coordinates," Harper pressed. "They led you here." Rais nodded toward a view screen showing their position in an unfamiliar star system. "Whatever happened here left traces in subspace, but something survived." She pulled up a scan on her datapad. Massive energy signature beneath the surface of that planetoid, protected by some kind of temporal stasis field. The neural monitor at Harper's neck burned cold again, warning or confirmation. She couldn't tell. She exchanged a glance with Varix, who had remained silent during the exchange, observing with predatory intensity. "We need to investigate," Harper decided. The Dresch security officer released pheromones of extreme protest. "I understand the risk," Harper responded. "But if these entities are targeting humans specifically, we need to know why." Commander Varix finally spoke, his voice unnervingly calm. "Lieutenant Harper is correct. Coalition protocols mandate investigation of Class A xenobiological threats." His compound eyes fixed on the stasis chamber containing Dr. Evers' brain. "The Council will want to know what we're dealing with." 2 hours later, their shuttle descended through the planetoid's thin atmosphere. The landscape below resembled broken teeth, continent-sized fragments held together by weakened gravitational fields. "The scan indicates the structure is beneath that plateau," Rais directed, pointing to a relatively stable landmass. As they approached, the Coalition crew members began showing signs of distress. The Metheri engineers clutched their heads, while the Volari navigators' eye stalks drooped in pain. "Some kind of radiation?" Harper asked, feeling only a mild pressure behind her eyes. "No," one of the Metheri gasped, "like screaming in my brain." The humans exchanged glances. Each felt it too. Not pain, but a strange, almost musical resonance, like a half-remembered song from childhood. They landed near a massive fissure in the plateau. Equipment readouts fluctuated wildly, compasses spinning, quantum clocks desynchronizing. "Reality's thin here," Dr. Evers' synthesized voice observed from the portable unit containing her brain. Dimensional boundaries weakened. The fissure led to a tunnel that showed signs of artificial construction, perfectly smooth walls inscribed with mathematical sequences. As they descended, the Coalition species' discomfort increased, while the humans felt an increasing sense of familiarity. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that defied physics, larger inside than the plateau above could possibly contain. At its center stood a pillar of shifting light, surrounded by walls displaying 3-dimensional images, star maps, biological diagrams, weapon schematics, a cosmic history written in light. "This is a war record," Rais whispered, studying the displays. between the precursors and something called the Void Collective. The images showed galaxy-spanning civilizations reduced to ash, planets consumed by darkness, and finally, a desperate last stand. The precursors losing their war, initiating some final protocol. As Rise approached the central pillar, it pulsed in time with her heartbeat. She reached out, drawn by instinct more than reason. "Elena, wait," Harper began. Too late. Rise's fingers touched the light. The chamber transformed. Dormant systems activated, illuminating hidden recesses. A voice, neither male nor female, simultaneously ancient and new, spoke directly into their minds. Recognition pattern confirmed. Genetic markers authenticated. Inheritors have returned. The pillar expanded, light flowing around Rise like water, scanning her at the cellular level. The neural monitor at Harper's neck went suddenly inert, its connections severed. Contingency protocols activated. The voice continued. Sanctuary awakening sequence initiated. The walls of the chamber reconfigured, revealing thousands of alcoves. Each contained a crystalline form identical to those that had attacked the research station, but unlike those hunters, these remained dormant, waiting. "The Sentinels await your command, inheritors," the voice explained. "The enemy approaches. The void hunger still grows." Rise pulled her hand away, stumbling backward. "What are we?" she demanded, voice shaking. "What did they make us to be?" The light pulsed once more, projecting an image of Earth, not as it was now, but billions of years ago. Precursor ships in orbit, genetic manipulation of early life forms, a plan spanning eons. "You are the final solution," the voice answered. "The weapon we could not build, the children we designed to finish what we could not. We need to report this to Coalition Command." The Volari navigator insisted, mandibles clicking anxiously as the group returned to their shuttle. The aliens still winced with each glance toward the ancient installation, while the humans moved with newfound purpose, as if drawn to the structure rather than repelled. Harper nodded absently, fingers probing the dead neural monitor at her neck. Its sudden deactivation felt significant, like a chain broken, a leash cut. When she tried to remove it, the device crumbled to dust. The sanctuary mind called those crystalline beings sentinels, Rise observed, reviewing data collected from the chamber. "But they're identical to the ones that massacred our research team." Dr. Evers' brain pulsed in its containment unit. Two factions of the same species, perhaps, like antibodies that can't distinguish between a virus and the body's own cells. The shuttle communication system chimed with an incoming transmission. Harper hesitated before accepting it. Admiral Zentrix's crystalline face materialized on the view screen, facets darkened with barely contained fury. "Lieutenant Harper, your neural monitor has ceased transmission." "Explain." "Some kind of interference from the structure we discovered, Admiral. We've located survivors from the Pathfinder and found a precursor installation of unprecedented scale." "You will withdraw immediately," Zentrix interrupted. "A containment fleet has been dispatched to your coordinates. Secure any surviving humans and prepare for extraction." Ray stepped into view. "Admiral, the installation contains crucial information about the crystalline entities that attacked us. They're targeting humans specifically because of some ancient." "You were not authorized to speak, Captain Reyes." The Admiral's voice turned glacial. "Your criminal trespass into the Forbidden Zone will be addressed by a coalition tribunal." Harper frowned. "Sir, with respect, these findings supersede jurisdictional concerns. The entities referred to humans as anomalous ones and—" "I am aware of their terminology, Lieutenant Harper." The word hung in the air like an admission. Harper felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. "You knew. You've always known." The Admiral's facets shifted, reflecting light in hypnotic patterns. "What I know is that the Forbidden Zone was established for the protection of all sentient life, including humans." His gaze shifted to Reyes, "especially humans." The shuttle sensors suddenly shrieked in alarm. "Multiple ships dropping out of FTL," the navigator reported. Coalition signatures, heavy weapons powering up. On the view screen, Zentrix nodded. The containment fleet will sterilize the installation. Your shuttle will be retrieved afterward. The transmission cut. In the silence that followed, Harper moved with sudden decision. Everyone back to the sanctuary. Now. But the fleet. The Metheri engineer protested. They'll destroy this entire region. Including us. Harper cut him off. We're witnesses now, not rescuers. Understanding dawned on Commander Varix's alien features. His compound eyes fixed on Harper with newfound respect. The Admiral's actions confirm your theory, Lieutenant. The Coalition has been suppressing information about human potential. They'd reached the sanctuary chamber just as the first orbital strikes hit the plateau above. The structure trembled but held, protected by technologies beyond their comprehension. They're using planet crackers, Ray said, checking sensor readings on her pad. Trying to reach us through brute force. Can this place withstand that kind of firepower? Harper asked. As if in answer, the central pillar flared with energy. The voice from before returned, now tinged with urgency. Extinction protocols detected. Threat assessment critical. Sanctuary defensive systems activated. The chamber walls flowed like liquid, reconfiguring into a command center. Holographic displays materialized, showing the Coalition fleet in orbit. 20 ships arrayed in battle formation, weapons trained on their position. Primary directive: preserve inheritor genetic lineage. The voice continued. Secondary directive: protect sanctuary integrity. One of the surviving researchers stepped forward, eyes wide with realization. This isn't just a sanctuary or archive, he said. The mathematical patterns throughout this structure, they're familiar. I've seen them in theoretical papers on. A violent shudder interrupted him as another bombardment hit closer. Dust and fragments of ancient material rained from above. Sanctuary extraction protocols initializing, the voice announced. Inheritors, secure yourselves for dimensional transition. Dr. Evers' synthetic voice rose with uncharacteristic emotion. It's a ship. This entire structure is a spacecraft built into the planetoid's crust. Around them, the dormant crystalline sentinels began to stir in their alcoves, eyes illuminating one by one. The central pillar pulsed with increasing intensity, its light spreading through the floor in geometric patterns. Dimensional anchors releasing, the voice announced as the chamber trembled with escalating violence. Planetary bonds severing. Harper grabbed Varix's arm, surprising the alien commander. I think we're about to find out what humanity really is. Above them, the Coalition fleet fired its primary weapons in unison. The combined energy lanced down toward the plateau with world-shattering force. In that moment, the sanctuary tore itself free from reality. Space fractured around them like shattered glass. For an instant, or perhaps an eternity, the sanctuary existed everywhere and nowhere, sliding between dimensions with the fluid grace of a predator moving through water. When existence stabilized, the holographic display showed only the velvet blackness of deep space, stars unfamiliar and distant. Where are we? Harper whispered, still gripping Varix's arm. Beyond pursuing capabilities, the sanctuary mind answered. Current location: intergalactic void between spiral arms, approximately 12,000 light-years from previous coordinates. The surviving Coalition crew members huddled together, overwhelmed by the impossible transportation. The Dresh security officer had collapsed entirely, his species' sensory apparatus overloaded by the dimensional transition. He needs medical attention, Harper said, kneeling beside the alien. The Sentinel chambers contain appropriate medical technologies, the sanctuary mind directed. Inheritor genetic material required for activation. Harper pressed her palm against a nearby wall section. It liquefied beneath her touch, forming a doorway that hadn't existed moments before. Beyond it lay a crystalline medical bay that hummed with dormant energy. As they moved the Dresh officer onto a floating platform, the sanctuary mind continued. Safety protocols now permit full historical access. Inheritors may receive complete information regarding their origin and purpose. The central chamber reconfigured once more. The light pillar expanded, forming a three-dimensional display of unprecedented detail and clarity. The humans gathered around it, drawn by an instinct older than their civilization. "Show us," Harper commanded. "Show us everything." The display ignited with images of the ancient cosmos, the precursors at the height of their power, a civilization spanning galaxies. Then came the darkness, the void collective, a consciousness that evolved in the spaces between stars, feeding on sentient thought itself. The war lasted millennia. The sanctuary mind narrated. The collective consumed world after world, growing stronger with each mind it devoured. Our weapons proved ineffective. The collective existed partially outside conventional reality. The display showed precursor scientists working frantically in laboratories similar to the chamber they now stood in. Our final strategy was containment, not destruction. We shattered the collective into countless fragments, each sealed within specialized containment vessels, living biological matrices designed to gradually transform the parasitic energy. The image shifted to a familiar blue-green world, Earth in its primordial state. Precursor ships in orbit, genetic material delivered to the primitive oceans. "You were our solution," the sanctuary mind explained. "Each human contains a fragment of the void collective, bound within your cellular structure, gradually transmuted over millions of years of evolution." The human survivors exchanged stunned glances. "We're parasites," one researcher asked, voice trembling. "No," Commander Verix answered before the sanctuary mind could respond. The Ardeshian officer stepped forward, his compound eyes reflecting the ancient light. "You are transformers. What was once destructive consciousness energy now fuels your unique cognitive abilities, your creativity, your imagination, your capacity to conceive what does not exist." The sanctuary mind continued. The sentinels were created to guard the process, to ensure the fragments remained contained until transformation was complete. But some believed the experiment too dangerous, that the fragments would eventually reassemble and consume this galaxy as they had others. The Coalition, Harper realized. They know about this. They've been containing us, limiting our development. Factions arose among our created guardians, the sanctuary mind confirmed. Those who remained loyal to the original protocol, and those who believed termination of the experiment was necessary. The latter group established what you call the Galactic Coalition, maintaining the quarantine of your world for millennia, allowing controlled expansion only when they believed they could manage the process. Reyes laughed bitterly. "So the big secret of the universe is that we're dangerous." "Not dangerous," Dr. Evers' synthetic voice countered. "Revolutionary. The capacity to transform destructive energy into creative force. That's why the void collective entities are harvesting us. They want to understand how we're changing what they are." The sanctuary's displays shifted again, showing the crystalline entities that had attacked the research station, their internal structures riddled with darkness similar to what had consumed the ancient worlds. "The void fragments within humanity have nearly completed their transformation," the sanctuary mind explained. "Soon, you will manifest abilities beyond Coalition understanding, beyond even our design parameters. The remaining uncorrupted sentinels have awakened to protect this process." Commander Verix stepped into the center of the chamber, his alien form stark against the swirling light of the ancient technology. "My ancestors were among those who believed in the original protocol," he said quietly. "For generations, my lineage has worked within the Coalition, maintaining the old knowledge, waiting for the right moment." He turned to Harper, compound eyes revealing emotions no human had ever seen in an Ardeshian. "The neural monitor wasn't to watch you, Lieutenant. It was to identify you, to confirm you were ready." "Ready for what?" Harper asked. The answer came not from Verix, but from the sanctuary itself, as the walls around them pulsed with ancient power and new possibility. "Ready to complete what we began. Ready to face the void that still hungers between the stars. Ready to transform destruction into creation, not just within yourselves, but throughout the cosmos." Harper looked around at the survivors, human and alien alike, brought together by forces set in motion billions of years ago. Then she stepped forward and placed her hand on the central pillar, embracing the legacy encoded in her genes. Then let's begin. As the sanctuary ship accelerated toward the galactic core, the transformed consciousness within each human awakened to its true purpose, not as weapons or containers, but as bridges between what was and what could be. And in the vast emptiness between stars, the scattered fragments of the Void Collective sensed the change, drawn to the light of possibility, shining from what had once been their prison. The war for reality's future had begun anew, with humanity standing at the center, not as pawns or victims, but as inheritors of an ancient hope and guardians of creation itself.